the Purpose Driven Entrepreneur Podcast. We're all about delivering great content, thoughtful discussions, and tips and tricks to help you truly get the most out of your life and business. And here's your charismatic host, me, Matt Browning.
Well, this is going to be a great day. Hey, welcome back to the Purpose Driven Entrepreneur Podcast. I'm your host, Matt Browning. Super excited to be here with you. This Friday's Interview Friday is a very, very special one. I realize I say every Friday, Interview Friday is a special Friday. But this one in particular, because some people that I bring to you I've met recently, some people I got introduced to, and some people are old and dear friends of mine. Now, this friend is not an old friend, but, well, how do I say this? It's a friend I've known for many years, but she is young and vibrant. Let me make sure that comes out correctly. The interview I have for today is one half of a dynamic duo, Miss Sharla Jacobs of Thrive Academy. Her better half, let's see. When I talk to him, he always says that she's the better half, but leave it to them to describe. The other half is Jessie Corin. Jessie and Sharla are two people that I met years ago on the speaking circuit. We were both speaking at similar events, and we just started, of course, connecting and building a friendship, of mutual respect and colleagueness. And over the years, we have both supported each other's ventures for years. I've sent many NLP students over their way to learn the art of client attraction, which is what we're going to talk about today. The art of client attraction. How to attract clients to your coaching business, your service, your professional business, without being salesy. I find if you're listening to this and you're in that boat where, you love what you do, you're passionate about what you do, but it's not really about the money, but at the same time, you're like, man, I'd really like to make money. If you're having that conversation or that wrestling inside with yourself like I did and like Sharla and Jessie both did, I think you're really going to enjoy this interview. We get into quite a lot of cool stuff. So let me tell you a little bit about Sharla. Sharla Jacobs and Jessie Corin founded Thrive Academy. You can find them at thrive-academy.com. That's the main website for the company. And they run these workshops called Client Attraction Summit. Now, I've been to Client Attraction Summits. I've sent many, many clients and students over to Client Attraction Summit, rave reviews. To me, they're like the pinnacle, the peak of the peak of service-based professionals and entrepreneurs and coaches learning how to attract new clients and learning how to position themselves in a way that actually makes them as valuable as they really are, makes you as valuable as you really are. Now, Sharla and Jessie, for 13 years, have trained over 8,000 coaches in the art of attracting clients. Sharla, you're going to learn a little bit in the interview how she went from being a bartender to Chinese medicine to what she's doing today for the last 13 plus years with Thrive up in Santa Cruz. Very, very special people. They have something they call a 10,000 a month club, which I think is just such a cool award or club to be a part of. They're all of their students and clients who have, once they hit their first $10,000 month in their business, and this is a lot of solopreneurs, right? A lot of individual business-owned coaches. So for many of us, me starting out for sure, trying to get to a $10,000 a month number in your business was massive, because what that really means emotionally and fiscally, it means that you broke six figures. And the sad truth is most small businesses, as they launch and start, they never grow past six figures. And then they fizzle out in the first year, 5 years, or 10 years. And Jessie and Sharla's clients have continually broken that six-figure a year mold, or 10,000 a month. I realize that's 120 a year, but I'm just trying to make the math easy here. But they've broken that 10,000 a month club and kept it up there. They do a lot of work around money beliefs, a lot of work around not so much like the languaging as such for talking to new clients, but really it's like how to niche yourself. So we talk about Sharla's story where you'll hear the name. Oh, and she says it. I concur. It was the worst name you could give yourself as far as when someone says, "What do you do?" So you'll hear Sharla's story starting out as a holistic coach, saying with the "what do you do" statement, and how she's transformed that over the years. And now she and her husband Jessie teach people, of course, how to have a much, much better statement that doesn't scare people off, but actually brings them in a very organic, sort of natural way. use one of the things I learned from Jesse and Charlotte, and we're going to talk about that during the interview, is something they call the balance between the heart box and the sales box. And what it means is, on one side of the spectrum, you can get into the heart box in selling. And how that works is, you get extra woo-woo, extra lovey, extra giving and caring and serving. And it's all about your heart and just caring for someone. But very often the money gets left out of the equation, and we do a lot of sessions for free or for way too cheap. On the sales box, and early in my career, I started in the heart box. Because as you probably know my story, if you've heard this at all, if you've never heard any of my story, go listen to some archive episodes and you'll hear all about it. I've bored some people over the episodes and times doing the podcast, but when I started off doing seminars 12 years ago, I had a lot of heart box. So I gave up a real estate career and I just cared deeply about personal development and serving and helping people. And as a result, it took me almost 2 years to make my first $1,000. Yep, you heard it right. I know. And if you're listening to this, if this is your first episode, trust me, don't worry. I am a smart guy, smarter than that. But I cared so deeply for the work and for the people that I really had my eye completely off of the sales game and off of the money side of things. I'd already made my money in real estate. This was like my give back. But it took me a couple of years, and then I went to the other side. I went to the far side. This is before I met Charlotte and Jesse, and they set me straight. And I went into the sales box, and I pushed way too hard, right? I was like, I had a story to overcome every obstacle. And if you sat down with me at the end of a seminar, there was no chance you were getting out without signing up for something. And I pride myself that today, I believe that me and the team at Evolution, we found a really good balance between those two. And I credit that balance to Jesse and Charla. So I give credit where credit's due. The biggest thing I learned in my sales game in my company is the balance between the heart box and the sales box. So Jesse and Charlotte teach some really great stuff around essentially how to attract clients without being salesy. And that's what this interview is. Enough of my braggadociousness. Listen to the interview. At the end, you're going to find out how you can get a copy of their book, The Art of Attracting Clients, completely and totally free. And I certainly hope you enjoy getting to know my friend Charla Jacobs as much as I've enjoyed having her and her husband in my life. Enjoy the interview. We're back. I am so excited to sit down a little bit more long form with you. It's funny. I was telling some of the people as we're getting ready for this podcast that I've known you and your husband Jesse for years. We see each other pretty consistently, at least a few times throughout the year. But it's always at a live event. It's always for another reason, right? And just to be able to sit down a little bit and kind of get into you, I'm really, really excited about. So Charlotte, welcome to the pod. How are you?
Thank you for having me. I'm doing great. I'm excited to be here. And it's a little interesting that all of these times that we've seen each other and all of these conversations that we've had, that we haven't actually got to sit down and have tea and learn a little bit more.
Yeah. And I hear you have your tea. Is that right?
I do. I'm actually doing a hot cacao drink today. So
a hot cacao drink.
Cacao.
What's in hot cacao?
I call it hot chocolate. It's and this is for all of you who want to join us for tea. It's raw cacao, collagen powder, and then a little monk fruit, which is a natural sweetener that has no sugar. So It tastes like, to me, because I haven't had hot chocolate with real sugar, and I don't know how long. It tastes like hot chocolate to me, but it's like
real milk.
It's like when I want a little boost, like I want that zing from what would be coffee, but instead of coffee.
Hey, so monk fruit and rocket. And that leads us right into, this is the environment we are in. I know you've been really into for years with a background in Chinese medicine, and you work with a ton of coaches and healers, and you're in that transformative space that you have been for so long. Did you grow up that way? What was it like as a kid? Did you, I don't know, I see a lot of kids nowadays are hanging around these entrepreneur conferences. They're, 9 years old, going on Facebook Live, talking about raw cacao and stuff. What were you like as a little girl? What was life like?
Definitely not growing up in an entrepreneurial household at all. My mom was an admin, secretary, admin, receptionist in that world. My father was a bartender.
Really?
So I grew up in a blue collar household and with a lot of lack, a lot of we can't afford this, we can't afford that. My parents divorced when I was young. So single mother and home alone a lot, walking home from school at 8 years old and mom didn't come home until 5:30. So
So you
um,
had that like 3 hour window by yourself, like a lot of kids have now.
a lot of TV. I was raised by the television.
What was your favorite show as a kid? Do you remember
Oh, good
afternoon
question.
shows?
Good question. I think, MTV was relatively new. So I'll divulge my age now, right? Like MTV came out when I was a child. And so that was a really exciting thing to watch after school.
Wow, and I'll bet you with a helicopter parent, you wouldn't be watching a lot of MTV. So lucky
No.
you.
Yeah, I was really fortunate. I mean, I got that independence. Funny enough, though, that we're a little helicopter with our kids now. We're like
Mhm.
full on attachment parenting, we are like kind of hippie parents, bed sharing, all of that stuff. And,
Yeah,
our kids, I mean, I nursed until my kids were 3. And
yeah.
so I kind
Hey,
of swung that
Val
other
got his nursing for
direction,
that long.
right? Like, and my kids are the kids that, the entrepreneur kids, they're not doing Facebook lives because we don't do media with them, but they are the ones that are at soccer camp being like, is that watermelon organic?
I love that. Well, hey, another, I mean, bed sharing, the whole thing. Like Zachary, 30 now?
Zachary's like 30 now.
No, I'm kidding.
Zach is, he just turned 7 and Jacob's about to
Oh,
turn 10.
oh my gosh.
Yeah,
I can't believe 7 and 10 already.
I know.
It's incredible. We just came back from my nephew's this morning, his sixth grade graduation. And it's crazy. Like my parents, they're grandbabies now. The oldest one is graduating sixth grade. And
That's
then
amazing.
my son Val he turned 7 in March. So he's finishing up first grade right now.
Oh my gosh. Well, that means that Zach and Val would have been in the same class if we lived close.
Isn't that crazy? But you were
Yeah,
in Santa Cruz.
we
Did you
are.
grow up in the Bay Area?
No, I grew up in Orange County. I think that you and I have talked about this. So I was
How
born
could
in
I,
Newport Beach
how could I
and
forget such a thing?
yeah, I grew up in Fullerton and Placentia. So I am a
Ah,
Valencia Tiger, from
yeah.
good old Orange County. And I'll be honest with you though, like, I mean, I go to Orange County now and maybe it's the community that I have. I meet, I have friends that are there and I love it when I go down there now. There's a
Mhm.
sense of home for me. But growing up, I really felt like there was depth missing. I used to joke about it being all about fake boobs and Coors Light, fast cars. And my reality growing up in Orange County in the 80s and so I graduated high school in 1990 was it felt very superficial and shallow to me. uh,
Right.
and I wanted to get out. I wanted to go someplace where I didn't have to always put myself together to leave the house. Living here in Santa Cruz, and I'm a mom. I'm in my jeans and yoga pants with a hat, no hair, makeup, nothing, which I really
Just
most of
like
the time I
everybody
really
else.
appreciate it, right? But when I grew up, it's like you didn't leave the house without putting yourself together, and there's a lot about looking good that was frustrating for me. Like I was just craving some depth. I don't have that same experience with my friends that live in OC now. And I think
Mhm.
it has to do with community and transformation. And, we're all evolving all over the world now. So I think some things have changed. But when I
Sure.
grew up there, I couldn't wait to leave, except I really did love going to Disneyland several times a year. And that was hard to
You
grow
know what's
up
funny?
with.
So I grew up in Orange County, obviously, and I still live here right now. And 10 minutes, 15 minutes from Disneyland. I don't know if I actually went as a kid once.
Oh my gosh. My mom used to take us out of school. So my mom, single mom, struggling, but like
But
a lot
how
of
do you
hard
get
times.
Disneyland
Did
tickets?
take me to Disneyland 4 to 5 times a year, and she would take me out of school to do it. So she's a fun grandma now, and she was a fun mom back then.
That is epic. Now, did you go to college right after high school, or what was your after high school plan?
Yeah, I mean, growing up in a blue collar household, the money wasn't there, right? So I went to community college at Fullerton College
Yep.
for 4 years, and then I transferred to UCSC, and I actually was accepted to every college that I had applied for. But I wanted to come to Santa Cruz because I wanted to see what it would be like. I thought being a hippie would mean there'd be a lot more depth there. so I
So much
chose
depth.
UC Santa Cruz, and then so I basically took 7 years to get my bachelor's, and I'm still here in Santa Cruz today. It was in '94 that I came
Mhm.
up here in Santa Cruz. Left for a couple of years to live in Palm Springs, but this feels like home.
Yeah. Oh, I can tell, and I know, like, where you live now. Didn't you moved recently?
Yeah, we bought a house in December 2016. So we live in
Yeah.
Felton. We live in the mountains, this adorable little mountain town in Santa Cruz, and we have an acre here, and yeah, just love it. I mean, we do a lot of driving. When you live up in the mountains, you get to
You
get
drive to
you
everything.
drive to everything. Everything is 20 minutes away, and the kids go to school 25 minutes away. So we work from home and commute to school. But it's great. It's beautiful. It's sunny here, and in Santa Cruz, if you want to live near the ocean, you want to buy $1 million house, you're gonna have a tiny little cottage basically. But if you want to have a bigger house, you got to live out in the out in the woods.
Yeah, and I haven't been there yet, but I've seen, like, the photos and video when you're back at the house, and it's just a gorgeous view, unbelievably peaceful, I can imagine. You got to enjoy that. Did
Thank you.
when you landed in Santa Cruz, you said it felt like home. Did you ever explore around kind of other areas in the Bay Area, or like once you went to University of Santa Cruz, you just knew you were going to end up there?
I didn't. I mean, I did love Santa Cruz, and Santa Cruz is one of these funny places that as soon as you get here, you notice that people actually talk about where they live. Like people talk about Santa Cruz a lot. Like there's this funny vortex here that's going on. And in my growing up, starting here in college and being a, business owner and community leader at this point, and all of the different, my evolution along that path, it's been interesting to see different communities and what their thoughts are about Santa Cruz. When I first got here, I actually was a bartender. I mean, I partied my way through college like crazy, right?
Okay,
And
7 years is the lucky year.
I sometimes say I don't drink anymore, and it's just my health can't handle it. But sometimes I just tell people a joke of I drank enough in my 20s to last a lifetime.
You're like the
I
Van
still know how to
Wilder of
party. It
Santa
just
Cruz.
doesn't look like that. So that community of like working in a dive bar here in Santa Cruz was like the most popular dive bar. All cute young girls were the bartenders, and hearing that conversation about Santa Cruz versus what people say now, living, going to the Santa Cruz Waldorf school and being a
Right.
very conscious community, like parents who really care about their parenting. They really care about the food they feed their kids. They, the environment, and then there's the political conversations and just those different communities. So it's been very fascinating. It feels like 4 different lifetimes in the 20 some years I've been here.
I can imagine. I feel like Santa Barbara is a lot like that too. A lot of those coastal cities where Boulder, Colorado. I lived in Boulder for a little bit, and it's like you either have like that college Boulder University vibe,
Right.
or you're not in that at all, and you're like, hey, I live in the foothills. I hang out with my 3 dogs. I recycle everything, and I have homemade sandals and lights.
Right.
One or the other.
Right.
So when you were bartending, I'm just curious, did you ever have any like dreams of, okay, well, once I get out of bartending or I finish school, what'd you go to school for?
So
What'd
I
you
have a
find?
biology degree.
And did you think you were going to do a career in that, or did you think I got to do something?
I did. I changed a lot. So I had an original intention of doing dietetics, like diet, there wasn't holistic health wasn't even a conversation in the 90s, right? So
Right.
that's what I thought. And then I got interested in marine biology and how to it's part of the reason why I went to UC Santa Cruz. Thought that was what I was going to do for a living all through school. But I have to tell you that, just some of the choices I made in college, where a lot of other kids were doing internships and really thinking about their future. I wasn't. I was getting by day to day and partying a little too hard to pay attention. So, and it was that last quarter of my, my undergrad where I was doing some, this is so funny because the irony of it is going to blow you away, but I did some work out in the field with elephant seals, and then realized that what I thought was going to be me living on a boat, scuba diving and, doing all this amazing work actually meant a lot of time on the computer. And,
Right.
and it was like, I don't want to sit in front of a computer all the time. And so here's the irony of it is that now, how much time do we spend in front of our computers? I spend a lot of time in front of my computer
Literally right now, we're in front of our computers.
all the time. And one of the things I hated about it was the writing. And I write all the time now. I mean, my preference is to be on stage or to be on camera. I definitely have that part of me that there's, dharma here. There's like meant to be. But And that's part of why the being a bartender was so good for me. I got to basically have my own stage all the time, but I didn't realize that was why it was such a good fit.
I know you have quite a performer bug in you. When did you start? Because obviously speaking is from the heart, but it's also, there's a performance art to like your stage time. And I can always see that with you, right? You're very aware that you're in front of the crowd and yet you can still connect. But I've also seen you like at the amazing joint venture retreats that you put on for transformational leaders every year. I'm blessed to be able to be on the guest list and attend. It's been a blast every year. You also do these really cool, like, what do we call those? Not a talent show. And I watch you do like talent-y stuff, and there's a dance background, right? When did you start kind of in the performance world? Was it, again, as a little girl? Was it throughout school, or was it more recent?
Probably age 3. I know my mom put me in my first dance class, probably at age 3 or 4.
Wow.
And grew up dance.
Did you love it right away, or did you do
loved it? Loved it. Dance is one of my greatest passions in the world. It's one of the things that I love more than anything. And it's funny because, at our live events, we found a way, and I think this is for anybody. If you're ever going to do live events, you have to incorporate the thing you're most passionate about into your live events. And for me, it was dancing. And so we actually do a lot of dance breaks and keep people, you got to have an embodied learning experience. If you're going to be sitting in a live event from 9 a.m. until 6:30, if you think about sitting in a classroom like that, you'd be bored to tears, right? But
sure.
So we do a lot of dance breaks and we call them warm-ups, but it's a way to really get us in our bodies. So I'm really glad that we've gotten to incorporate that into our work.
And that's just a thing that you've always loved, and you're probably always going to love.
Forever. I mean, I wanted to be Madonna when I was, in 7th grade. I mean, anybody that was in the 7th grade at my age at that time wanted to be Madonna. So
she was, the material girl. She's the best. So you've always been doing that to an extent. When did you transition from I want to do biology to how in the world did you get into Chinese medicine and you did acupuncture, right?
Yeah.
And all of that kind of world. What was the transition like?
The transition was, I got my undergrad, and long story short, I ended up in Palm Springs with my dad for a couple of years, kind of trying to figure out what the heck am I going to do next? I had looked at some graduate school programs to get a master's degree in biology and was looking at going to like Oregon University of Oregon. I don't remember at the time. It was Ducks. I know that.
Oregon Ducks. Yeah.
Oregon Ducks. All right. And I had a friend that was living in Palm Springs who had just recently graduated from Five Branches University here in Santa Cruz. We connected, somehow somebody introduced us because we were both from Santa Cruz. So we connected on that cultural Santa Cruz level. I kind of felt like an outcast and like a mismatch in Palm Springs, although the hiking is great out there. And I was like super fit because that's all I did was work out. There's like nothing else for me to do except for party and work out.
Yeah. Now, Five Branches, that's a traditional Chinese medicine school, right?
It is. Yeah. Okay. And so this friend, Rob, he, I met him and he had just graduated from that, and he gave me my first acupuncture treatment, and he talked to me about acupuncture. And I already had been obsessed with health and with nutrition, and that was the thing that drove me to get into science in the first place. And I just had this aha that when I understood a little bit about what acupuncture was about, there was this work about the 5 elements that was a fascinating way to understand people and their motivations and their constitutional issues with both emotional, body, everything. I was fascinated by the system of the 5 elements. And then I realized that here was this way that it was about actually being, the bedside manner thing, about being present with another human being, about connecting with people. And I already had that because of my background in service and, the service restaurant industry. And it felt like a really good match. And then to take, on top of that, I had a science background. So I already had all the prereqs because I had a biology degree, so it required a lot of memorization. I was a really good student. So it just felt like this perfect match of taking all these parts of my life and spirituality, which never worked in the science community at that time. It took all these parts of me and felt like, wow, this is the next thing. And I've kind of felt like that in my life, that there's always this, wow, this is the next thing. that my mom used to say I was going through a phase all the time. I was always going through phases.
You're still in a phase.
I'm still in a phase. I'm in the workshop business phase. I've been here for 14 plus years.
Yeah.
But that, it was that way of really kind of taking all of these things that felt like they were a core part of who I was and finding a career. And so it seemed like the right next best step for me until, I got through, and the sort of the licensing program was really, really challenging. It's like taking the bar exam. So I got my license, and then I also discovered coaching while I was in the middle of it.
Oh, perfect.
So I was in the middle of my acupuncture license, and a friend of mine goes to a transformational workshop. She comes back so changed. I go, "What's that? I want to go." And that completely changed my life. That's actually, I met Jesse at a transformational workshop, if you can believe that.
I wanted to get to that in a second. So when did you and your husband Jesse meet?
We met in, okay, so we all remember September 11th. We met in November that year, 2000.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
Yeah. And, where people were very present to what was going on in the world, and the fear and the, like the possibility that can come out of that deep human connection that people were starting to have with each other because of the trauma that everybody had suffered.
Absolutely. What was the transformational workshop about? Was it like just a personal development-y thing? Was it? Yeah,
like personal development rocked my world. I mean, there's no way that Jesse and I would be doing what we do if we hadn't gone through that. We went through about a year of the programs there doing personal development work, really diving into the way, the meaning of life, the way human beings work, and the questions we ask ourselves and the stories we tell ourselves, and through actually starting to deconstruct those stories that I had lived with and had run me, had like run my life. That was a big change. And I actually met a dear friend while I was in that program that introduced me to the coach training program. So I did my coaching certification while I was studying for my acupuncture board exams. It's a little bit of
might as well do them at the same time.
Just get it all done. Just, I'm a fan of overwhelm. It's just been kind of a way I've run my life.
And are you two dating? Are you two dating at this point?
Yeah, so we were dating, and so we met in this event in September. So we met in November, and then we started hanging out in January. He had just moved to Santa Cruz. So I grabbed this Midwestern boy, because he was a boy at the time. I grabbed this Midwestern boy, right, and new to Santa Cruz. And we were just friends for quite a while. And then we had this funny thing where we would hook up, like we'd get together. And then the next day he'd be like, "No, I can't do this. I just want to be friends." But then he'd call me like 4 times that next day. And then he'd be coming over and sleeping on my couch. So we couldn't stay away from each other. And it was kind of a funny thing. But then in March of 2012, he moved in, and it was just supposed to be a temporary thing. And that's kind of the rest was history.
Wow. When did you know that he was the guy?
This is kind of, maybe it'll sound crazy to you, but I do get a very clear, intuitive, strong hit on things sometimes. And when he came to my door, we had barely known each other, and we'd had, some little electric moments when we were at these workshops together, but not anything super significant. But he came to my door one day, and I opened the door, and I swear I heard the voice of God say, "This is your husband."
Wow.
And I thought, are you kidding?
The first time he came to your door?
No, not the first time. This is at another time. This is like a few, we had only been friends for a few weeks, and he was so not my type. So it was just like, I had dated bad boys my whole life, and he was like a nice guy. He dressed really differently, listened to different music.
Yeah, let's be honest. He tries to get into that bad boy mode, and he just, nice I love guy. Jesse, man.
He's a good man.
Very sweet dude.
He is. He's a really good man. And, not to say we haven't had our relationship challenges, and, we've all have that work we have to do with our partners, but he's a good man, and I feel really blessed.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Wow. What a cool story too. Just to hear, to hear the audible voice and just to know. And did he know at the same time, or
no? It took him so long to commit to me. We had this funny thing. So he moved in March because he lost his apartment that he was living in, and it's so expensive to live here in Santa Cruz. Like for college students and young people, it's so hard. But he moved in with me, and it was supposed to be a temporary thing. And we just kind of stayed connected and we couldn't seem to separate. But we had this back and forth. It was, pretty tumultuous in the beginning, and he really had a hard time being in a committed relationship with me. But at one point he said, okay, fine, I commit to you. But there was still he always had one foot out the door. It's like one foot in, one foot out. He could have been gone in an hour, left his stuff in boxes. And we went to a retreat at the Ojai Foundation. You might know it, in Ojai, California. Mm-hmm. Love that place. And we went to this retreat where we did a sweat and we had a vision quest. And during the vision quest, I had a moment of just really letting go of attachment to whether it worked out with us or not. I was so heartbroken and distraught over the constant, back and forth. And are we going to, all of that. And then when we ended up in our circle to process how things had gone, he had a moment, and probably it was at the same moment of clear commitment to me. Like he was tired of the back and forth. So I let go of attachment in that moment. And then we got back to the circle and we did hey, we're going to be married for a year and a day. And the year and the day, we have no idea when that ever ended. So that was, but it did take him about 5 years to actually, or 4.5 years to propose to me. And so
4.5 years.
So we were together for many, many years before he finally proposed to me.
So how long have you been together total now?
Let's see. We were
early 2002?
Yeah. So we were together in early 2002. Yeah.
So you're 16 years.
16 years. We got married in 2007.
That's beautiful. I love that. Well, what an awesome couple and awesome example. The two of you, or the four of you really, to see the family growing is just absolutely outstanding. Now, was Jesse, because I know you have some interesting story around the holistic practitioner work. So you now are a licensed acupuncturist. You're a certified life coach, is that right?
Yeah.
And what's Jesse doing at this point? Well, you're doing all this. What's he in the middle of? Okay,
so Jesse always knew he wanted to do workshops. Like he envisioned himself sitting in a circle, with doing kumbaya, and I'm exaggerating here, but oming, not much. No, I mean, he was very deeply spiritual when we met, and the personal development thing for him, it was very exciting. It's just kind of his thing. He'd go to all kinds of little workshops. For me, it was the first thing I had ever done, except I did live at a Zen monastery as a Buddhist monk for a little while before that. But just as a little aside there. So he had that vision. I had no vision of being in front of people in that way. I mean, even though I had been a performer my entire life, the idea of speaking in public didn't inspire me or appeal to me. I felt so self-conscious. It's part of what I got over in all that personal development work, was this idea. I don't know, lots of ideas about how the world was and what was wrong with me. And so as part of that program, we did a workshop series together. He was really into working with teens at the time when we met. And then we were also doing our coaching certification about the same time. So Jesse actually had his life coach work that he was doing. I graduated from acupuncture school, got my license, got my certification, and he tried to get clients, and he pretty much fell on his face and had to get a job pretty quickly. I had this, I am not going to go back to, being a server. I'm not, I've just spent so much of my life. I finally found the thing I'm supposed to do. I'm going to do no matter, whatever it takes. I'm going to find a way to make this work. I don't necessarily recommend that for everybody. For some people, it makes sense to just if you know that you're that super determined, you're going to do whatever it takes kind of person, then fine, you find a way, you make it work. For a lot of people, it makes sense to have a job and kind of take their time with it. So I thought, okay, I'm going to start my practice. I'm going to jump out. I'm going to do it. And it took me about 5 or 6 weeks to realize that I knew nothing about sales and marketing. I knew nothing about what it was going to take to build a practice. Having an office and a business card was not going to get me clients.
Well, isn't that such a trip that, we still see it today, obviously in your business, we're going to get to some of that as well, but it's so prevalent. You look at and even I'm guilty of it as well. My school, right, our training center, I really center around
NLP training, coach certification training. And it's like, but I've decided to really dig into, we're going to train the skill sets to make you the best possible coach you could be, the best possible practitioner you could be, or speaker, or whatever it is. But almost none of them, right, have, it's not a business school. And it's the same for acting. It's the same for, almost really any art or any modality that way. Medical school, they don't teach about how to get clients, how to do billing, they don't, right?
Nothing.
And all of us walk out thinking, I did the exact same thing. I'm going to be a life coach now. And I did my NLP certifications, and 2 years later, I made $900. I'm living in my buddy's trailer. My listeners have heard my story ad nauseum, but
right.
But like it took me 2 years and I made $900. I had 3 clients, 2 were free. So I had 1 paying client, and it's just, we don't learn those skills. So you have,
and nobody says, hey, by the way, you're getting this whole education in this modality. You're investing tens of thousands of dollars in some case. For me, acupuncture school, I graduated like $80,000 in student loans. Nowadays, the kids are graduating with $250,000 in student loans.
Right. And
nobody is telling them, you're going to go work at Kaiser and get a job doing acupuncture. You might make $60,000 a year doing that. And if you want to learn how to grow your business, you actually have to learn how to get clients. You have to learn how to run your business. And there is that, okay, the overwhelm enough of just figuring out how to do your books and kind of get your ducks in a row and paperwork. I mean, that stuff by itself is overwhelming.
Yeah.
But the reality is that probably the biggest overwhelm is around learning how to sell and having to get over all of those beliefs about selling being a sleazy thing, about being a bad person if you are selling anything. Like,
right.
There's so much there. And, you had said something about that you're just, training people to be coaches, but, you're digging into those beliefs. So they're getting some of that work. We have found that in order for somebody to be successful in business, they need both a combination of really uncollapsing, like deconstructing those beliefs that are in the way about being a bad person if you're selling, about that selling has to be manipulative, about all those things that you assume are true, but they are stories. They are not true. I sell stuff all the time and I feel great about it. I believe in our work, and I don't ever think I'm a bad person for doing that. When I first started, I did.
Yeah.
And so, to get through those beliefs and to have the tools and the templates and to get that personal coaching, like to customize things and to support you. It's really, it's like if you're going through any modality, you just have to plan that you have to get business training after. And then the question is, who is your mentor going to be?
Mm-hmm.
Now, I didn't know that, so I had flyers and business cards and told my friend who was a cabbie and everybody else that I knew, which I knew.
I want you to tell this quick story too, because you have a phenomenal story about your business card. So what did you call yourself when you first, you graduated and you were out doing acupuncture and life coaching? What was the title you gave yourself that you knew would sell?
Yeah. So I'll tell you, and I don't know about you, but for anybody who discovers coaching, right, it's like this huge moment, right? I have found the thing, and you get into this deep heart and soul work that transforms people's life, and it's so rich and juicy. And then there's what do you call it, right? So I spent hours with different coach friends trying to figure out what to call myself, because I was doing this acupuncture and coaching thing, and I wanted to combine them, and I felt like I was creating this brand new modality, and I could have seen myself, I could have seen myself being flown all over the world to work with really high level people. And, that's the way I wanted to make a difference right behind the scenes at this time. And I remember being on the phone with a friend who was a coach, and it was I finally had the download, I had tingles all over my body, and I was so excited, and I was going to call myself a transformational acupuncturist.
A transformational acupuncturist.
We were so excited. However,
that sounds amazing. What is that?
What is that? It sounds, well, to you, it might sound amazing, but to most people back then, it sounded scary. What are you going to do? You're going to stick needles in me and turn me into a bunny?
A bunny, she says.
I don't know.
What am I going to transform into?
What are you going to get transformed into? You're going to stick needles in me. And that's the thing, is that we get so excited about our modality that we think we're going to go talk about it like that, and people are just going to come. And it's a really extremely disappointing slap in the face to put yourself out there with something you're so passionate about. And it's a huge mistake that a lot of new coaches and holistic practitioners make, is they're trying so hard to make their what do you do statement something, or how they talk about what they do in a way that defines their identity.
Yeah.
When the reality is that there's never going to be a way to fully describe what you do in one sentence. Mm-hmm. And so, at our Client Attraction Summit, that's the live 3-day event that Jesse and I put on, and we've had over 8,500 people come at this point. Over the past 13 plus years. We actually spent a lot of work, spent a lot of time working on that what do you do statement. How do you actually talk about what you do in a way that people really get what you have to offer, and they want to work with you. They want to have a further conversation. So yeah, that was a big mistake I made back in the day.
So did you change the name right away, or did you go after it for a while and just like scare people? Like how did that go down?
So I have an interesting story here that, back in those times when I was trying to build my practice, I was, that no matter whatever it takes. So I hired somebody. I actually met somebody who was a mentor to people who are new in business, and he's still a friend today, and great guy. And he promised me that if I did the homework he was going to give me, that I would triple my income within 90 days. Now I was kind of barely squeaking by at around $1,800 a month when I hired him. And I actually had to borrow the money from Jesse at the time because he charged $600 a month. So I borrowed the money from Jesse so I could hire him. We got started. When he told me what the homework was, I almost fell off my seat. Like, in order to guarantee that I would triple my income,
yes,
it was to have 20 conversations for business 5 days a week. So 100 sales conversations every week.
I mean, even if you were terrible, I can't imagine not tripling, right?
You might do all right. So it was a lot of learning on the field, just being out there in the world, in my community. I went to every networking event you can go to. And, I'm a little more mature now, but back in those days, I always felt like I was the youngest person there. I had all this insecurity about how am I going to coach somebody and help them in their life at my age. And this acupuncture stuff I just started. And
did you end up doing much acupuncture, or did you kind of gravitate early on as you were figuring this out more into the coaching kind of transformational side of things?
Most of my acupuncture clients, I'll be honest with you, in those days I kind of took what I could get. So I had a few acupuncture clients that I would see at the $60 an hour session, right? Mm-hmm. But most of my clients that came in for acupuncture were a combination of coaching and acupuncture.
Yeah.
And it's because that's what I wanted to do. I was able to charge more. It was more fulfilling for me. I was able to use this work around the 5 elements to, it's, a very deeply spiritual system. And I was able to really do that deeper work with people. So that's what appealed to me. And I really struggled. I was barely getting by. And then I had this huge epiphany, this life-changing epiphany. I asked myself this incredible question when I was in the process of being in this program with my friend who told me I'd triple my income if I had 100 sales conversations a week. And by the way, honestly, I had about 12 a day instead of
12 a day.
12 a day. So I would, I would go to a networking event and there'd be 7 other people at the table, and I'd stand up and talk about what I did, and that would count as 7. So it was like on my little tick marks, or following up with people. I followed up with everyone. And I just stayed in action, and he coached me and gave me some support. But a lot of it was just being out there with people and discovering what worked and didn't work. But this question that I asked myself, it changed my life, not only because of what it did for my practice back then, but because of the trajectory it put me on. Mm-hmm. I asked myself, what if the 5 elements, the same 5 elements I was talking about that are Chinese medicine that got me into that work, what if the 5 elements are present in sales conversations too?
It's a huge, and I wanted to actually kind of pivot into that is because I love, you've given me a copy of your book. I'm very grateful for that. The Art of Attracting Clients that you and Jesse have written. And in your book, you cover in pretty good depth what these different 5 elements are. And the first time I heard about it was from you. And I started implementing it right away. I remember I sat and I don't know if you remember this, but when we first started like partnering together, I came and I attended the first day of your Client Attraction Summit. And I figured, well, let me sit in the first day and just kind of check this thing out. And you had a really nice little table, very grateful for like speakers or for friends or whatever it was, right? I was kind of off to the side for a minute, just kind of watching.
And within, I mean, the first section, I'm pulling out my own personal notebook and I'm just enthralled. And I feel like this brand new student who knows nothing. It was awesome. And you got into these 5 elements, and I realized some of those, and I wish we'd get into all of them, but I want to kind of ask you about my favorite one, which is water. And like for me, when I heard you kind of talk about water, I realized, oh, that's what I've been doing. So I use it in my own sales conversation still to this day, which is understanding that in each one of these ways of being, sort of like approaches to people, we're usually far off on one extreme or the other side, right? Like we're either a wishy-washy or we're too strong. But you can describe that a lot better than I can. So can we talk about water a little bit?
Sure. Yeah. And I'll just say this, that when I actually asked myself that question, it was like I had this download of this whole system, right? That we still teach to this day. It's one of the things we're known for, the 5 elements of heart selling.
Yes.
I say heart selling, not hard selling.
Hard selling.
Nobody wants to do hard selling, right? It's like what everybody's afraid of. So this is all about selling from your heart and being authentic and genuine in your conversations and leaving everybody in a better place. I started doing that. I started using this model I had downloaded, and people started saying yes. They started referring, and within actually 30 days of me starting to use that system, I did actually triple my practice. So I did, my coach friend actually got, I didn't have to use the guarantee there. And that was really the start, because a bunch of friends wanted to know, and Jesse followed suit soon after. Like he went from finally quit his job. He got like 5 clients and then got like 16 new clients in 1 month. And we finally knew we were onto something, and friends started asking us, so we started teaching it. I mean, I had no idea that we would end up where we are today with, we've probably taught over like 60,000 people this 5 elements system. But let's touch on it a little bit. So each of the 5 elements must be present in every conversation. In our book, we go into depth in all 5 of the elements, into some of the background of Chinese medicine, why it's this way. And at our Client Attraction Summit, we actually do a lot of deep training in it, where you do exercises to get these elements in your bones. You were talking about the water element. So every element has what it looks like in balance, which is what, how we are ideally using the element in our conversations, being the element, so to speak.
Yes.
It also has out of balance in the sales box and out of balance in the heart box. So what is the sales box? The sales box is like being pushy, manipulative, obnoxious, like having a strong agenda, asking leading questions, things of that nature. Where the heart box is really being so concerned about being liked and how we're being judged and perceived, that and it's like, we're so nice, everybody likes you, but you're giving away lots of free sessions and people aren't saying yes. So what we need to do is we need to come into balance between the heart box and the sales box, where we can have heart and we can be effective with sales.
So good.
Effective with enrollment. We call it heart selling. And this is not about pushing people into something that's not right for them. This is actually about helping someone discover what they want most. And if what you have to offer is a good match to support them to get what they want, then it's about empowering them to say yes. So that's really the context. We call heart selling inspiring conversations that lead to action.
So good. And isn't it like, would you agree that inspiring conversation leads to action is the overarching theme, that whether money is transacted or not, right? This is really, to me, what selling always is. So it's when you have an inspiring conversation with your kids and it leads to action, and now they're doing their homework. Now they're making a shift or a change. So it can be, inspiring a friend, and then they take action to change their diet. But in the business context, money should transact. Otherwise it's not business, right?
Absolutely.
But would you agree that that is ultimately what sales is? And if you can wrap your mind or let go of the idea of sales is only about convincing someone to do something, it's really about inspiring conversations, no matter what the context is, and it should always lead to action. So if it's business, what's the action? What's the next step?
Yeah, and the action is either a next step. We're going to continue our conversation because this isn't the right place and time to go deep. And the thing is that we've worked with, thousands and thousands of coaches and holistic practitioners. And so when you're doing transformational work, the nature of the work is deep. It's intimate, it's vulnerable for your potential clients to consider working with you. You're not often going to finish that conversation at a party, right? So sometimes it is the next step, like,
you pull out an enrollment form from your back pocket at the cocktail party.
Credit card on you? That'd be so weird, right? And so it might be, continuing the conversation. The next step might be getting started. Maybe you're offering a package or a program or, a consultation, all of those things. Maybe it's coming to your workshop. And, so whatever that next step is, but maybe it's a referral. Maybe the person isn't a good match. But when you learn, for example, how to describe what you do in a way that people are so compelled, they're thinking, we have this thing we call the face roll, right? That you share what you do and someone's like, I need to introduce you to my brother. His face came to mind when you were describing what you do. That's when you have a really hot, what do you do statement. So whatever the next step is, it's taking that action. And in the case that you're in the consultation or the further conversation, depending on where it is, and they say, yes, I want to hire you. Are you willing to, with totally clean energy, to ask a question like, would you like to get started? Yeah. And if money concerns come up, are you able to hold the energetic space? Like, it's really a sacred space to have these conversations where someone wants to work with you, but money is a concern.
Right.
And, we don't have enough time to get into all of it, but essentially, like, we train people on all of these things, all these templates, and then to get over all of the stuff that's in the way of being able to do them with full enthusiasm, with full heart, with full alignment. And the key here in all of it is that you're aligned, they're aligned.
Mm-hmm.
And so what you're looking for more than anything is alignment. And you're never trying to force somebody to be off of their alignment.
That is so important. And also it puts me at so much ease too. So it's nice to know as someone who wants to help other people and change the world and make an impact, I don't have to be worried about being this crushing, always be closing salesperson. Because I always think of Glenn Ross. I guess I'm that age. And Alec Baldwin, coffees for closers.
Oh.
And it's like, man, what if I just never close someone again?
Mm-hmm.
What if I just had inspiring conversations and then presented, here's what you would do next if you're inspired about what you want to do. And if it's with me, then let's do it. And if it's not with me and it's somewhere else, then do it. But no matter what, you should get out there and do it.
We've changed all of the language of sales because we're so conditioned to feel repulsed by the traditional language of selling, overcoming objections. Gross. Who wants to do that?
Right.
Closing somebody. I don't want to close anybody. So, instead of closing, it's supporting a client to commit themselves to themselves. It takes a little bit more to get that out, but
love that.
If that's your context and your frame of mind, then you can be aligned with actually having that conversation.
It also describes it better too.
It does.
In my head, I'm thinking, I'm going to support you to commit to yourself.
Yeah.
You just made a decision, so I'm going to support you in that. And
absolutely.
It feels very accurate and way better.
Right.
And then overcoming objections you're about to say?
That is dance with concerns or transform concerns. People have valid concerns that are in the way. And if you can, again, both hold the space and then have the skill set to support that person to come to their own alignment, you would be amazed at how many times when people are just given that space and then you've got that skill set of being able to have that conversation in a way that's honoring for them. Yeah. You would be amazed at how many people will say yes when when they actually get to explore with you.
I love that. Charla, we're coming to the end, unfortunately, where I can't believe how much time has gone by. It's been an absolute pleasure hanging out with you. Really, I mean that from my heart. I just love being in your presence, spending time with you, and I'm very grateful for the time that you're sharing with us. The book, everyone, is The Art of Attracting Clients. Charla Jacobs and her husband, Jesse Korn, are the authors. What's the next step, by the way, if you're inspired for this? How can people connect with you? What should we do next?
Sure. Yeah. You can go to Gift from Thrive, like Thrive Academy is our company, giftfromthrive.com/Matt. And that will get you a free copy. You can download a free copy of our book, The Art of Attracting Clients. And if you are inspired by what you read there and you are interested in joining my husband and I at a 3-day live event called the Client Attraction Summit, there is a ticket for a full scholarship inside of the book. So giftfromthrive.com/Matt. And next time we talk,
Wow.
it's going to be all about you.
I can't wait. I can't wait. Man, that's so awesome. Thank you. Because I'm looking up, I mean, obviously it's on Amazon. It's available wherever books are sold, but you can get the ebook for free. Go to, again, giftfromthrive.com/Matt. She's got it set up for you. And it actually comes with a scholarship to a workshop, which is just unbelievably phenomenal. Thank you. Wow. Thank you for that. I'm going to put the link and all the links. And I'll put your website and your social media and everything up in the show notes. So just scroll around and click. And you can follow Sharla and Jesse and Thrive Academy on social media and have a blast and continue that conversation with them if you feel so inspired to. Sharla, final question as we wrap. And this has kind of become a signature final question of mine. If you could give a younger you, the Chinese medicine student you, advice, what would you say? And if you could change anything in your entire story, what would you change, or would you leave it all the same?
Great question. I would say it's going to be okay.
Wow.
Trust in God. It'll be okay. The universe has got your back. You're fine. And knowing everything that I know now, and what would I change with my story? I wouldn't change a thing.
I love that. Well, Sharla, thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure. I will see you soon.
Thank you for having me. Bye-bye, everyone.
Hey, welcome back. I hope you enjoyed that interview. Man, every time I get a chance to sit down with Sharla and Jesse the same, whether they're together or independently, one of the things I love about them, and you'll find, especially if you decide to take them up on this amazing gift they were offering, you can get the Art of Attracting Clients book for totally free. Remember, all you got to do is go to giftfromthrive.com/Matt. My name is Matt. giftfromthrive.com/Matt. And you will get the Art of Attracting Clients book completely and totally free. It's not even a free plus shipping. It's a free ebook, and it is yours right now. You can also find out how you can apply for a scholarship to go to their live event, Client Attraction Summit. And there's Client Attraction Summits coming up throughout the year. As this one drops, the next one will be coming up January 18th through January 20th, 2019. Just in Northern California, very easy to get to, especially if you're in the SoCal region. I know we have listeners in 75 different countries. I realize that you're coming from all over the world, but I promise you, if you're going to attend one seminar this year, well, one of them should be mine for sure. If you're going to attend 2 seminars this year, 2 of them, one should be mine and one should be Jesse and Sharla, Thrive Academy, Client Attraction Summit. So what I was going to say is if you decide to head up to Santa Cruz area and connect with Jesse and Sharla, you're going to find something unique in the seminar business. This is a husband and wife team. They have 2 lovely children who are just shining lights. They're so amazing. And you're going to find that Jesse jumps in and does certain parts of, like, he'll do a lot of like breakthrough coaching with coaches, and he'll do certain parts of the speaking. And then Sharla jumps in and she has her brilliance kind of on another side of the sales conversation. So they both jump in and they'll do different sections of different parts. It's really quite cool, to see this team, this husband and wife family come together and both just add tremendous value with the brilliance that they have independently and then also together. So Sharla, if you're listening, I just want to thank you. Jesse, thank you for being a good friend and being such a support and an amazing colleague and partner of mine over the years. Really appreciate you guys. I hope you get some traction from this, and I certainly hope that if you listen to this podcast, if you have not had a chance to meet Jesse and Sharla or find out about their stuff, look them up. Head over again to giftfromthrive.com/Matt, and we'll put all their social media in the show notes. So just scroll down. You can follow Jesse and Sharla. They also have a really cool blog on their main website, thrive-academy.com. So don't go over to thrive-academy.com unless you're really, really wanting some cool insight as a coach, as a speaker, as an entrepreneur, as a solopreneur, as a service provider, and you're going to learn a ton about getting more clients, being less salesy, and making more money all around. Thanks again, Sharla. Hope you guys have an awesome weekend. Enjoy. Remember to subscribe, write a review. Yeah, write a review. make a little rating thingy on the iTunes machine, and make sure you subscribe if you haven't already. Go back in the archives. We have a few really cool episodes. The one I put on just this last Monday, you really enjoyed. I talked about the secret to creating your goals. So if you haven't downloaded that already, head over back, just scroll down and wherever you're getting this feed right now and check out Tuesday's episode, which is just a couple of days ago, about the secret to getting your goals, which is all about how to get more flexibility into your approach towards life. It was a quick 11-minute episode, but very, very laser focused, and I think you'll enjoy it quite a bit. All right, have an awesome weekend. As usual, get out there, do your thing, crush it. Let me know how it goes. Find me on social media at Matt Browning. Follow me on Instagram, Twitter, I was going to say iTunes, of course iTunes, but also Facebook and YouTube. The podcasts go up on YouTube. And whenever we do Zoom video interviews, by the way, if you follow us at YouTube /Matt Browning, you will see the videos of these podcasts. So I don't mention that too often, but, never too late to check it out now. All right. Have an awesome weekend. See ya.